So you're looking at how to engage an email list. So does that mean that you've got a list and you just forgot that they existed? Or maybe you just haven't been sending communications to them, you haven't communicated frequently for whatever reason. Or maybe you're a little bit naughtier than that and you have been communicating too much and they're a little bit burnt out and they're not engaging with the message. But whatever the case is, if you've got an unengaged list, it's bad news all around, because an unengaged list means bad email deliverability. And bad email deliverability means even the people who are engaged and do want to hear from you aren't going to get your emails. And if you aren't communicating frequently, well, that's super sad, because those people signed up, they wanted to hear from you, and then you just pretended like they didn't exist and you ghosted them. And that's not ideal either. So it's bad news all around to have an unengaged list. It's really important to have an engaged list. There's a bigger problem with the fact that you might have an unengaged list. And this is especially for the people who are over communicating to their list and they have an unengaged list as a result of communicating to them. It's a big bad sign that you're missing the mark with your communications and how you're communicating to your audience. So if you have large pieces of unengagement, this could be because you haven't been tidying up your list and you haven't been keeping on top of all of your housekeeping tasks. That's fine, but it could also be a sign that maybe people aren't as interested as you thought they were in the messaging that you're putting out there. And that's a pretty big red flag that you need to be looking at. So if you have been really bad and you haven't communicated in the right way to people, it's okay. There are ways that you can fix this. The first thing that I would suggest that you do is run a re-engagement campaign. Now, a re-engagement campaign isn't that complicated. It's just finding the parts of your list that aren't engaged and running a little campaign just for them. And it sends a few emails to them just to try and get them to re-engage again with your topics, the information that you're sending out. You might offer them something really high value in exchange for a little bit more engagement, to entice them back in again. But it's also to find out what are the email addresses that don't exist anymore and all that kind of stuff. It's a nice big cleanup operation. It's a great spring cleaning thing, and running a re-engagement campaign can be really, really exciting. You can also, of course, combine this with a little bit of social reach out. So if you have a low volume of people going into your re-engagement campaign and you want to get them back on board again, it's totally fine to reach out to them on other social platforms, and it can be a really nice surprise that you've taken the time and the effort to find them and reach out. But that doesn't always work if you've got high volume of unengaged people. But running a re-engagement campaign can be extremely successful in getting people back into the fold. But once you've run a re-engagement campaign, or if you're somebody that hasn't been sending frequently to your list, the next thing I want you to do is to sit down with a mirror and take a long, hard look at yourself and make a commitment to yourself to change your habits. Because there is a reason you've got to this point. Why haven't you been sending to people? Why have you been sending too much to people and missing the mark with your communications? And if you're not going to take that opportunity to learn and to grow and to put, commitments in place to be better in the future, then don't bother. Don't bother putting a re-engagement campaign together. Don't bother doing anything. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of our time if we're building it for you, and it's a waste of your customers' time to receive it. So if you're not committed to being better in the future, just bother with nothing and go away effectively. But if you are committed to changing and you want to have a really highly engaged list, then sit down and plan for engagement. Okay, so figure out what it is that your audience is really interested in hearing about, the things that are very valuable to them and the stuff that they want to consume, and track that. Track how they are engaging with everything and utilize that data to inform your decisions going forward. Now, there are some cool things that you can do. So one of the things we love to do for our clients is something called a long-term nurture. It's how we help people be more engaged with their audiences. And it's basically a way of sending content consistently to somebody's audience over a long period of time. But we don't stop there. We don't just send the content out and hope that engagement happens and that they're happy and that they magically buy. What we do is we track what people are engaging with. And we might go a step further and add in specific engagement triggers, so behavioral engagement triggers. So we track what people are engaging with, and that tells us what they're interested in. It tells us what's a problem for them right now. It also tells us when they are ready for sales, which means we can sort of cascade them into sales campaigns and nurture campaigns and lead magnet campaigns and you name it. And we utilize that to give us deep understanding and a behavioral profile of who that person is. So you can get really cool when you do your engagement well. But if you're not doing it well, it's time to make that change. So I created the series to not only help businesses right now through quite a difficult time period for everybody, but also because I wanted to inspire action. I didn't want people to just passively consume content. So my ask is that you maybe put some things in the comments below. So specifically, I want to know what your engagement is like right now. So what is it like right now? What does your audience actually care about? So what do they want to hear from you? What are you going to be doing differently? And what is your plan to create engagement in the future? So even if you have a really highly engaged audience, what are you going to do to keep that engagement up? I'd love to see that in the comments. I'd love to have some real conversations going about engagement because most people's lists aren't as engaged as they think they are. Now, if this is a challenge for you and you want to have a chat, by all means, reach out. We have free marketing therapy sessions. But also, if you're just struggling with some of these topics, you can at any time book into that marketing therapy session. They're sort of between 15 and 30 minutes. They're not very long. And we are doing them for free to help people out during this time period. We also put together a resource page that has loads of little tidbits for you to help with your marketing and your automation. There's videos, there's cheat sheets, there's checklists, there's loads of downloads, there's even some webinars on there as well. So go ahead and check that out. But most importantly, stay safe right now, guys. Stay engaged and be nice to your email list.